Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for this final run-in of the 2019-20 season. Now there's not long till deadline, so I'm going to have to be fairly brief as we want to get this video out as quickly as possible, just so everyone can see it before the deadline. It really is coming up close, 11:30 on Saturday morning UK time. So today I've got for you in this Game Week 35 plus preview video, we're going to be talking about the Manchester City triple up, what kind of players from Manchester City should we be looking at, what to do with Wolves players. Now Wolves have sort of gone off the boil a little bit. We're going to be briefly talking about forwards because I know we've been constantly talking about forwards, but I keep getting questions about all the forward options, so we're going to try and go over that. And then finally we're going to do the captaincy picks, as always the most important decision of your game week. So with that said, if you are new around here, I'm looking to get 500 subscribers pretty soon, and I can only do that with your help. I'm pretty close, so yeah, if you do enjoy this video, you want to see some more, please do consider subscribing. With that said, let's get straight into our first topic, and that is the Manchester City triple up. Now, Manchester City have been scoring like mad. They've been creating so many chances. They've been shooting ridiculous amounts. They're just chances non-stop. Their expected goals is high. They're shooting loads. It's just they're making all the right noises for us to go in on their players, especially in attack. And in addition to that, they've now got the best 4 fixtures in the final run-in that you could possibly ask for. They really couldn't have better fixtures. And so they're playing all the worst defences in a row, basically. So you've got Brighton away, who have been shipping a lot of goals against the top teams recently. They've got Bournemouth at home, which we know conceding a lot of goals. I know the Tottenham game was a bit of an anomaly, but that's because Spurs were so bad, rather than Bournemouth being particularly good in defence, I think. And then they've got Watford away, who are shipping loads of goals recently, and Norwich at home, who have again been very, very sort of amateurish in defence. They're not looking like a comfortable defence in the Premier League at all, and Manchester City should really turn them over. So there's going to be some big goals matches, and we want to basically cover as many of these goals as possible, cover the goals, cover the assists, try and take advantage and get the points. So this is probably the most important triple up going into the final 4 games, maybe in addition to the Manchester United triple up as well. So what we've got is the best attacking team in the league against the worst defences in the league, 4 games in a row. So it really is written in the stars. The stars have aligned. It's time to go all in attack. So what I basically recommend for these Manchester City players that you want to be picking is to pick Kevin De Bruyne. He's essential for these last 4 games. So make sure you've got him in your team. I know most of you probably will already. And then after that, you've basically got a choice between Mahrez, Sterling, Jesus and Foden. Pick 2 of those 4 guys. So Mahrez is playing a lot of games and he always looks really, really good. So he's definitely a player you want to consider. And he's a lot cheaper than Sterling, who I'm not sure Sterling offers that much more than Mahrez for the additional price. Sterling is quite expensive, but with Sterling you have the benefit of, if Jesus is playing or if Jesus is subbed, if he's on the bench, Sterling will fill in at that false 9 position, which makes him like essentially a central striker, and a really good one at that. And he always wins free kicks and penalties and stuff like that as well, so that's an advantage of Sterling. Then you've got Jesus. The advantage of picking Jesus is the fact that because there's not many forward options right now, you can fill up one of your forward slots without picking someone who's may end up being dead weight, because there's a lot of dead weight up front at the moment, and with Jesus you can cover that position without having to field a player that you perhaps wouldn't want to. And then finally Foden, just because he's so cheap and he's offering so much for his value, he's sort of scored around the same amount of Sterling since the restart, so he is really good pick. And Pep seems to be putting a lot of faith in Foden recently, especially if the games aren't meaning as much towards the end of the season. He's going to want to be playing some, try and give Foden some experience in the Premier League, as he might even be first choice on the team sheet next season. So Foden is definitely one to watch as well. He could have had a few more goals, to be honest. He missed a few chances, big chances as well, in the game against Newcastle. So it was a bit disappointing, but I don't think we should write him off quite yet, because he still is getting those chances, and it's only a matter of time before one of those is converted. What I would say is don't be too tempted by David Silva or Bernardo Silva. If you can't afford one of the more expensive players like Mahrez or Sterling or Jesus, don't feel like you have to spend all of your money. Say you've got 7.5 8 or in the bank or something like that, just go for Foden over David Silva or Bernardo Silva. You don't have to spend all your money, and future you might actually be thanking you for not spending all that money, because you'll have a little bit more for future transfers as well. So don't worry too much about that. I guess you could go for David Silva as a bit of a differential, but Bernardo Silva's not looked particularly good FPL wise anyway, so I would avoid him. David Silva for the differential, as he has been playing, but Foden I do prefer, and you get a little bit of money in the bank as well. Rotation is going to be a concern, you have to accept that, but you shouldn't be too worried about that, because as proven by Sterling versus Newcastle, City players can come on for even just 30 minutes and bag a goal and an assist. Sterling actually the second highest Man City scoring player in that game against Newcastle, and David Silva obviously taking the top points. So out of the players I've mentioned, Sterling, although he only played 30 minutes, he was the top scoring out of the players that I've recommended. So don't worry about that too much. If they get any sort of game time, that's going to be good enough, and I think they all will. So let's move on to Wolves. Now, Wolves have been a bit of a disappointment. They've gone from being a team where you want to triple up on and you want to grab all of their players because they're going to be doing amazingly after the break, to sort of the last couple of game weeks this month sort of gone a bit flat really. Their tactics seem to be all over the place. They're not getting many chances. So let's go into this a little bit more, because they've gone from FPL darlings to the dead weights of the game. So Jimenez is no longer Mr. Reliable. Doherty is not getting any more points than Seiss, for example. So if you want to have a defender, there's no real need to go for Doherty because Wolves aren't scoring many goals, which means Doherty's not getting goals and assists. Adama has had glimpses of promise, but he's not even nailed, and he's definitely not consistent. And Wolves in general have just been very, very poor in attack. So 1 goal in the previous 3 games, just 4 shots on target during that time. Other attacking stats don't look so bad, but you can take as many shots as you like. But if you only got 4 on target in 3 games, that's really, really bad, isn't it? But when you go into specifics, for example, on Jimenez in the past 3, he's had 0.21 expected goals. His heat map, he's more on the wing and in his own half than anywhere near the box, so he's not even in the right positions. He's had just 9 penalty area touches in 3 games. Touched the ball 9 times, that's 3 times per game in the penalty box, which is just appalling. He's had 4 shots, but only 1 on target. And for 8.2 million, you can't really justify that when he's a striker who can barely shoot once per game. It's really not looking good for him, so he has become dead weight and it is time to shift him on, I think. Defence hasn't been bad, not quite as good as before, but the fixtures, this is where we want to be looking. So what's going to happen to Wolves next? What are their fixtures? What's going to happen in these games? So Everton, good defence, poor in attack, so could be clean sheets still on. Burnley, good defence, but they will shut Wolves out, won't they? Because if Wolves aren't creating that much, they're not doing that well in attack. A team like Burnley is sort of the last team you want to be playing against. So Burnley could do some business there. Crystal Palace could have some goals in there. Crystal Palace haven't been so good recently. They've been actually shipping a lot more goals than perhaps we thought. So if there's any game that the attack's going to do something, the Crystal Palace game is one that I'd keep an eye on. And then Chelsea are obviously a decent team. They've been playing quite well. And in that last game, the game week 38, they're going to be playing with for the Champions League spaces. So in that regard, that's going to be a tricky game for Wolves as well. So in conclusion, those fixtures are really not looking that good for Wolves. So it might be time to ship them on. The attackers in particular, I think you want to sell. Defenders, you could probably do with keeping, just because I imagine there's other areas that we can upgrade and stuff, and it's not too much point swapping around defenders at this moment. You can always put less players in defence or bench them as well. So we're going to be moving on to forwards, which might be a case of who do we sell Jimenez for. So forwards, Jimenez is a sell. He's not getting enough chances. He can't justify his price tag. There's no real benefits at having him in this current Wolves team with the fixtures they've got. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is getting the chances, but he's not doing anything with them. He just doesn't look his former self. He's not got any end product at the moment. So again, he's a bit dead weight at the moment. Bench him, sell him, whatever. Kane, he's playing in an awful Spurs side with no creativity in midfield, so he's not getting any of the chances that he needs. He desperately needs. He needs a lot of chances to score goals, which he usually has, but now he hasn't. So Kane is not really an option at the moment. And the three I've just mentioned there happen to be my front three in game week 34. So yeah, I'm not too happy with any of them. So yeah, going into game week 36, I'll be selling one and benching the other two, I imagine. So who do you bring in? So there's three golden boot chasers who I think are definitely worth a shout. Vardy for this game week is looking a really good fixture for him. After that, it's a little bit unconvincing, but he can score against anyone when in form. So Vardy is a player where perhaps you wouldn't want to be worrying too much about fixtures whilst he's in form. Well, that can all change very quickly. Aubameyang may be too expensive, if I'm honest, if you want to prioritise spending the money in midfield. He has got good fixtures though, other than Liverpool in game week 36. Even this Spurs game coming up in game week 35, it's looking pretty good, isn't it? Against the Spurs team who are just not doing anything really. So Aubameyang, I think, can take advantage there. Ings, absolute machine. He has got Manchester United in game week 35, but from game week 36, I think he looks really good to chase after that golden boot and get some goals. He's just looking insane at the moment, and yeah, I think you really need to think about bringing him in, if not now, for game week 36 and beyond. Outside of that, Greenwood, if you can fit him in, if you don't already have three Manchester United players and you don't have Greenwood should sort of be your number one pick, the first on your shopping list. So just because he's so clinical, he seems to be getting goals every game, he's playing so well, he gets all the bonus points, he's a bonus point, absolute magnet when he scores the goals. And he seems to be nailed on as well. Manchester United just not changing their starting 11 whatsoever. So and he's so cheap as well, frees up funds for your midfield. So Greenwood definitely number one pick. Jesus, as I've mentioned before, for City's fixtures, he will get the game time. We don't expect him to be dropped out of the team too much, just because there's no other recognised striker in that Man City team. So he sort of has to play in a way. So Jesus, I would be very confident having in my team. And then Chelsea, you could go for the Chelsea forwards to punt against Norwich in game week 36. Potentially Olivier Giroud has started the last two games over Tammy Abraham, so perhaps he's the shout over Tammy. But there might be some rotation in some of these games, so I'm not 100% convinced by that. And then the other two players I've got written down here, Jay Rodriguez and Dwight Gale. They are a lot cheaper than the other players, so again, it's another case of moving your money into the midfield, and then you can sort of just bench Jay Rodriguez or Dwight Gale if you don't like the look of their fixtures, because they're so cheap you can afford to bench them. But also, they are very capable of getting returns. They're not going to be huge point scorers, but they're definitely going to be getting you a couple of points from now until the end of the season. So there we have it. That's all the topics other than the captaincy, the most important decision of your game week. Let's have a look at the top captain picks for this week. So I've got as my number one pick Bruno Fernandes. He's the top point scorer since the break by a long way, might I add. In the 5 games since the break, he scored 5 and assisted 3. That's 8 returns in 5 games. That's just ridiculous, isn't it? He's the central figure in a free scoring Manchester United side, so that's looking really good. So you know, we've got this Manchester United side who are doing so well, and we've got this talisman to it, and obviously he's going to be a great pick just for that reason alone. And then the last 3 game weeks, he's had 15 points against Brighton, 15 points against Bournemouth, and then 14 against Villa. I can't even remember a player scoring that highly so consistently. The only concern, and I don't even know if it's a concern because there's so many other strings to Bruno's bow, but it might be Rashford's turn to take a penalty. If they are doing taking it in turns in penalty, you take one, you take one, you take one, you take one, then it's going to be Rashford's turn to take the penalty next, as Bruno took the last one. But that's not going to be a massive concern, and I don't even know that if necessarily that is the case. Onto the fixture, so we're not really sure what Southampton team will turn up. Obviously, they defended amazingly against Manchester City and really surprised us all there. But they did concede a couple of goals against Everton in that last game, so I don't think they're like solid in defence. So we don't know what one's going to turn up. They've got less and less to play for, Southampton, as we come to the end of the season. I don't think they're going to be challenging for European places, and I don't think they're not got a chance of getting relegated. So what are they playing for? Danny Ings has a golden boot to play for, but as a whole team, they've not really got much going on. And finally, does it matter who Bruno plays against, because he seems to be just able to score against anyone. Form over fixture, you go for Bruno 100%, and arguably he's just your set and forget captain for the rest of the season. Honestly, I imagine a lot of people will be doing that, and I wouldn't blame them either. So let's move on to some other players anyway, because we know Bruno is a very obvious pick. So Raheem Sterling, he come off the bench to score and assist versus Newcastle, so we assume he's now going to start in this next game. So if you do have Raheem Sterling, which not everyone does, it's going to be a bit of a differential. He's going to be a really, really good shout for captaincy. So we assume he starts. He could even start as a false 9 if Jesus doesn't start, because Jesus has started 3 consecutive matches now, which is not a lot of rotation, where Pep quite likes his rotations, as we all know. And even if Jesus starts and then he's subbed, even if Raheem is starting as well, Raheem will then shift into that false 9 position and take that central role. He's definitely a safer pick than KDB, just because KDB played last game. Is he going to play next game? We think he probably will, but there's not as high a chance. We think Sterling is pretty much definitely going to play, and I think Sterling has a higher ceiling. KDB playing a little bit deep, he's creating loads of chances, but Sterling, I don't know, for some reason I just fancy him over KDB this week. I really do. And then for the team, Brighton conceding lots of goals against the bigger teams. They are probably safe from relegation. You would assume by now they could maybe do 1 extra point in the final 4 games, but are they going to be hopeful of getting that point against Manchester City? Probably not. So you could say that I don't really have much to play for in this final game. In this particular game. So they might roll over. They might get absolutely battered. I'm definitely tripling up on Manchester City, and if I had Raheem Sterling, I think I'd seriously consider giving him the armband over Bruno. And then finally, another slight differential pick is Jamie Vardy. So Jamie Vardy going for the golden boot. He's had 3 goals in his last 2 games. We know he's a streaky player, so he'll score a bunch of goals all at once and then go quiet for a bit. He seems to be in a streak at the moment, so this might be the time to capitalise on him. Bournemouth, as we know, very, very poor defensively until they played Spurs, which made their defence look pretty good. But Bournemouth, the stats don't lie. They're still awful defensively. They're still conceding loads of goals, even if you include that Spurs game in the data. So yeah, so it's a really, really, really good fixture, and it's a player who we think is in good form as well. And then the other thing I like about Jamie Vardy is that when he scores, even if it's just 1 goal, he's almost always on for the 3 bonus points. He seems to be a magnet for these bonus points as well, and that's another thing that we're looking for. 3 bonus points, times 2, that's an extra 6 points onto your game week score, so that's really good as well. So those are the captains. That is everything I have to say about this game week. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck to everyone in game week 35. Let's all smash it together. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you're new around here, please do consider subscribing. And let's do it. Let's do game week 35. We've come to the end of the season. Let's get up some places. Let's do it. I'm excited. Let's go. Right, on that note, I will catch you later, guys. See you later, mates.